Take a second. Really think about it. Are you the exact same person you were 5 years ago? I mean, probably not, right? Your body has likely changed. Maybe you hang out with a completely different crowd, and your beliefs, the way you see the world, they've almost certainly shifted. But here's the crazy part. Despite all of those changes, you still feel like you. You have this undeniable, continuous sense of being the exact same person from as far back as your memory goes. It's honestly one of the most fascinating mysteries in human psychology. How do we change so much, yet somehow remain continuously ourselves? Well, welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to unravel that exact mystery. We are diving directly into foundational texts in human ecology and family sciences to break down the intricate psychological concepts of identity and the self. And we're going to zero in on that absolute roller coaster arc of life we all somehow manage to survive, adolescence. We'll explore exactly how that sense of I is constructed.
So here's our roadmap for today. First, the who am I question. Second, self-concept and self-esteem. Third, how the self actually develops. Fourth, adolescence and identity. And finally, what shapes your identity. Let's get right into it.
Section 1, the who am I question. To really wrap our heads around this, let's do a super quick mental exercise. Mentally complete the sentence, I am, just a few times. What instantly comes to mind? Well, you might start with physical stuff, right? Like, I am tall, tapping into your bodily self. But pretty quickly, you'll probably jump to emotional states, like I am happy, or mental abilities, maybe I am good at math. You might even define yourself by your roles. I'm a student, or I'm a daughter. You could even project into the future with your potential capabilities, or list out your core personal beliefs. The point here is, the self isn't just one static thing. It's this massive, complex web of personal dimensions, like your physical body, intertwined with social dimensions, like your everyday roles. And that brings us to a crucial point. We're constantly doing this balancing act between two totally different types of identity. First up, you've got your personal identity. These are the attributes that make you completely unique, the stuff that separates you from the crowd. Think your specific sense of humor or your unique talents. Then you have your social identity. This is how you link yourself to a larger professional, social, or cultural group. It's when you say, I'm a student, I'm Indian, or I'm Gujarati. We basically maintain our sense of continuity throughout our lives by balancing what makes us incredibly unique with the communities that give us a sense of belonging. Section 2, self-concept and self-esteem. Okay, we need to look at two crucial textbook definitions that are basically these psychological building blocks for human identity. We throw these terms around interchangeably all the time, but they are actually very different things. First is self-concept. Basically, self-concept is a description of oneself that answers the question, who am I? Think of it as the factual mental picture you hold of yourself. It's the raw data. It includes your qualities, your feelings, your thoughts, and what you believe your capabilities are. So if you say, I'm a fast runner, that is a classic statement of your self-concept. It is purely descriptive. Now, compare that to self-esteem. While self-concept is descriptive, self-esteem is evaluative. It's our judgment of ourselves according to the standards we've set. And let's be real, those standards are largely influenced by society. So if your self-concept is, I'm a fast runner, your self-esteem is whether you feel good or bad about how fast you run compared to everyone else. It's quite literally how we evaluate our own personal worth. Moving on to Section 3, how this self develops. You see, we aren't just born with a fully formed self-concept and self-esteem. It has to be dynamically constructed as we grow up. If we trace this timeline, it's actually pretty wild. At birth, infants have absolutely zero self-awareness. They don't even realize they're physically distinct from the outside world. When a newborn looks at their own hand, they don't instinctively know it belongs to them. It isn't until around 18 months that this massive cognitive milestone hits: self-image recognition. Psychologists often prove this with the famous mirror test. If you secretly dab a red dot on an 18-month-old's nose and put them in front of a mirror, they'll reach for their own nose, not the reflection. The self has finally clicked. By age 3, they start using physical descriptions and capabilities to define themselves. And by ages 7 to 11, they begin making complex social comparisons and grouping themselves. To give you a vivid picture of what that early childhood stage looks like, check out this quote from an interview with a young child named Radha. When a researcher asked her to describe herself, Radha said, I like my pink shoes, I like baby, I like my friends. Notice how her entire self-concept is built purely on concrete, visible objects and absolute terms. She's not thinking abstractly yet at all. She defines herself entirely by what she possesses and what she interacts with physically.
Now, contrast that early childhood phase with middle childhood. Early childhood is all about physical objects, things they can do, and using absolute terms. Kids at this age also frequently overestimate their abilities. They'll confidently look you in the eye and say they can jump all the way to the moon. But in middle childhood, a major cognitive leap happens. Children begin to differentiate using social comparisons. Instead of just saying, I can run, they'll say, I run faster than him. They start strongly identifying with groups. But most importantly, this is when they begin to distinguish their real self from their ideal self. They start separating what they can actually do right now from what they secretly aspire to do.
Section 4. Adolescence and Identity. All right, this is the era where the focus on the self kicks into absolute overdrive. During adolescence, young people develop what psychologists call the onstage feeling. Because teenagers are rapidly developing advanced cognitive skills, they become incredibly self-conscious. This leads to a massive preoccupation with themselves and an over-concern about physical appearance. Honestly, it literally feels like they are standing on a stage and everyone in the room is constantly watching, judging, and analyzing their every move. If you remember being a teenager and stressing over a tiny, almost invisible pimple, this is exactly why. It's a very real, completely normal psychological transition. And finally, Section 5. What shapes your identity? So, what's actually shaping your identity during this totally turbulent time? Well, it isn't just one thing. It's a massive collision of different factors. You've got your unique combination of genes. Literally, no one else has your exact DNA. You have differing personal experiences. Add in biological and physical changes, sociocultural contexts like the heavy influence of your family and peers, plus intense emotional and cognitive changes. All of these factors combine in a giant mixer to make every single person's identity completely unique. This is why even if two people go through the exact same experience, they're going to process it and respond to it differently. Of course, a massive chunk of this identity shift is driven by raw biology. During the timing milestones of early, mid, and late puberty, boys and girls undergo huge physical transformations, from initial growth spurts and menarche to voice changes and the development of facial hair. But what is absolutely crucial to understand here is that while these physical milestones are biological and universal across humanity, their psychological impact is not. The way a teenager feels about these physical changes and how they internalize them into their own identity varies wildly depending on their individual personality and the sociocultural context they're growing up in. The biology is universal, but the impact on identity, totally unique. And happening right alongside that physical growth is cognitive maturation. And this is actually incredibly empowering. Because their brains are physically maturing, adolescents suddenly gain the ability to think abstractly about the future. They can picture possible careers, start planning their adult lives, and truly begin to realize their full potential. They aren't just reacting to the world around them anymore. They're finally able to actively direct their own identity development. Which brings us to a final thought from the text that I want to turn directly over to you. Do you feel like you are experiencing an identity crisis right now? And if so, how are you handling it? Whether you're a teenager currently surviving that intense, on-stage feeling, or an adult suddenly realizing your self-concept has completely shifted once again, the truth is, identity is never truly finished. It's something we build, break down, and rebuild over our entire lives. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and keep reflecting on your own continuous identity journey.